This is a documentary about Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. It is narrated by Ishwar Iyer. The main characters in Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne are Phileas Fogg, who's a protagonist who makes a bet that he can travel around the world in 80 days. He's also a rich, mysterious, and eccentric person. After that is Jean Passepartout, who is Mr. Fogg's French butler and a brave, funny person. Next is Detective Fix, the antagonist who chases Fogg on his trip around the world, thinking that he is the one who robbed the London bank and is using the trip as an excuse to run from the law. And last but not least comes Aouda, an Indian princess who was forced to be sacrificed by Hindu extremists, and was saved by Mr. Fogg and Passepartout and accompanies them on the trip around the world. The setting of Around the World in 80 Days is in the late 19th century, but the location keeps changing since he's traveling around the world on a bet. There are four main events in Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. First is the bet where Mr. Fogg goes to a Reform Club, which he does every day, and gets into a conversation about the Trans-Indian Railroad, leading him to commenting about how it is possible to travel the world in 80 days. Another member says it's impossible, so he made a bet that he could travel around the world in 80 days. The second is when they are crossing India and they see something strange. Passepartout asks what is going on, and the tour guide replies that the girl is going to be burned in sacrifice. So Mr. Fogg, Passepartout, and the tour guide save the girl. Her name is Aouda. The third event is when Mr. Fogg gets arrested by Detective Fix. The fourth and last event is when Mr. Fogg and Aouda get married after he wins the bet. The main idea of Around the World in 80 Days is that calm thinking and determination can triumph defeat. For example, when the Sioux invaded their train while crossing Midwest America, Mr. Fogg had enough sense to get everybody on one carriage and to barricade the doors so nobody would get hurt. Another example would be in San Francisco when there was a mob. Mr. Fogg didn't lose his cool and steered himself, Passepartout, and Aouda to the train without panicking. The book Around the World in 80 Days is a humorous book filled with suspense, action, and a touch of mystery. The story starts in England where Phileas Fogg accepts a bet that he can travel around the world in 80 days. He is pursued by Detective Fix, a detective trying to arrest Mr. Fogg, thinking that he is the one who robbed the London bank. He visits many places such as Suez, Hong Kong, San Francisco, etc. The most important place being Bombay because that is where he saved Aouda. When he arrives in London, Mr. Fix arrests him, but it turns out the robber was actually a look-alike of Mr. Fogg. They lose 2 days while Mr. Fogg is in jail, and they think they're going to lose the bet, when actually they cross the international date line, gaining a day, and they find out and rush to the Reform Club to win the bet. The story ends when Aouda marries Mr. Fogg.